Welcome to Modern Management of the Older Adult, brought to you by the Institute of Clinical Excellence.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the MMOA podcast. My name is Samantha Chamberlain. I'm one of the TAs within the Modern Management of the Older Adult Division. Thank you for having me as part of the Institute of Clinical Excellence. I am bringing you some dates coming up for the MMOA Live. We have October 21st, Matawan, New Jersey. November 4th, we have Annapolis, Maryland, and Easley, South Carolina. Those are our live dates that are upcoming in the next few weeks. Then January 10th and January 11th, we have our next cohorts of Essential Foundations and Advanced Concepts, respectively, starting on those dates in January. So if you missed this cohort, which just started this week, then you can jump in right after the holidays and get in with us for those online courses. So this evening, whenever you're listening, I am bringing you a topic. I actually switched my topic because I just had this occurrence happen. So it's a little bit of a soapbox tonight, but I think it's very valuable from what we focus on in patient care, especially with our older adult population. So you can call the topic of this patient advocacy. It's an ongoing endeavor in a world that is after money. And it's also a situation where there's not too much TMI. And these two things go together, and let me explain why. So usually I am a grocery pickup person. I have been since since my first kid was born. It just makes life as a full-time employee and mom so much easier because I'm not having to find that grocery shopping time. So me going to the store does not happen very often, like going into the store. But a week or so ago, I went in to the store and this occurrence happened. So let me start by saying there is a ton of adaptive equipment out there and awesome inventions available for people that make their lives easier. A shout out to Lindsay DeLong with Equipme OT on Instagram. If you don't follow her, she's a great person to follow. She has shown us a lot of these cool, helpful tools that are available. A lot of them on Amazon. Like there's so many accessible ways to get some of this equipment that make day-to-day life easier for people. But one that we are all very familiar with is the tennis ball. Bear with me. I had no idea that these had been rebranded. Any of you know that? So I was walking through the aisles of a grocery store, a very common one, and I see like this assistive device, adaptive equipment, small section, and I see these tennis balls hanging there. And I'm going to check the numbers because I wrote them down because I was like, there's no way. These tennis balls, for a 2-pack, I had to look at them because I was like, oh, that'd be cool to tell my patients that these are here and already cut. So I looked at them. I checked to see if there were cuts in them already. Of course, they're to put on the front of a walker, or sometimes I've seen them on all 4 legs of a walker before. But I looked to see if they were any different than the tennis balls I'd bought a couple weeks before to put on some points that were sticking out on our parallel bars. They were not pre-cut. They were just a solid tennis ball. And they were 3.5 times more than a pack of tennis balls over in the sport equipment section. Now, when I give you the dollar amounts, you're not going to think that it's a ton. But when you're talking about people that are living on a fixed income and are working to save for X, Y, and Z, or don't have the means to buy these things, but it would make them less likely to fall, it becomes very important. So a 2-pack of these tennis balls were $6.74. A 3-pack over in the sporting goods was $1.88. 3.5 times difference. You can pay $3.37 each if you get it in the adaptive equipment section, or you can pay 62 cents each if you get it in the usual spot that you would find tennis balls. I had no idea these existed, like I said, and I checked them, I think, pretty thoroughly. Like, I didn't open the package, but I moved them around. I looked to see, I squished them to try to find a cut in them because I was like, there's no way that there's not something special about these. But there was nothing special except for they were a 2-pack hanging among other adaptive equipment. So that was frustration number 1. Right beside this small section was a locked cabinet. And this is where the TMI part comes in. So in this lock cabinet, like I was like, well, why is there a lock cabinet right here? So I look in there, and there's like emergency contraceptive, vibrators, lubricants, and condoms. And I was like, my first thought, like my initial thought was a very sarcastic one of, well, that's real helpful in preventing like unplanned pregnancies or STDs in like our high school age kids. It's more what I was thinking is high school, young adult age group, college kids, that type of situation. College adults, I should say. I'm getting to that point where I call like 20-year-olds kids, but that's a story for another day. So anyway, that was my first thought. But then my Jerry PT brain kicked on, and I was like, wait a minute. Like, sexual health is often overlooked in our older adult population, but that's still something that is a priority for them. So I started looking into this, and between 2014 and 2018, couldn't solidify these statistics, like they were kind of all over the place on different websites, but there was a consistency enough to say there was a sharp increase, like over 100% increase in people over the age of 55 having STIs. So I think sometimes the focus on protection is pregnancy prevention, and so we don't include that older adult population when we start to have, like if we have the audience in front of us and they tell us something in line with maybe intimacy is one of their goals, and we just brush it off and go from there. So I want you to really think about the person in front of you, their meaningful goals. What little tidbit could you do for them to make something more accessible, to make them feel better about whatever it is? So like I said, this is going to be a shorter episode, but there's some key takeaways that I want you to have from a patient advocacy perspective on these two scenarios that I came across out in the wild. So key takeaways: if you have a patient that is trying to navigate like medical equipment or getting certain devices or having adaptive equipment needs, and they're in that medical world, try to steer them in the right direction. So maybe be a resource dealer in that maybe you have a rep that comes and does certain bracing, or you found somewhere to get things at a discounted, maybe there's someone that has like a gently used, a medical equipment store, or there's actually a, like thrift store in our area that always has tons of walkers. Sometimes they have wheelchairs, canes, all of those type of things. And I have some at the clinic just to use as we need them. And I think I paid $5 for them. So don't sleep on those thrift stores in your area. So they might, and they have a ton of crutches too, now that I think about it. But also, you can steer them and give them kind of some direction on money saving tips. Like, for example, if they're looking for tennis balls for their walker, tell them not to type in, like if they're just ordering online or even on apps for grocery stores, don't type in tennis balls for a walker. Simply just type in tennis balls. So take that medical necessity piece out of it, because companies want to capitalize on that. If you need it, you'll pay for it. But if it's just a toy to play with, or part of your kid's sports or part of your sports, then suddenly it's like, oh, well, we can just hand you these for $1 instead of $6. So that's a pretty significant difference for people. And if you've dug into their meaningful goals, and one of them is intimacy, encourage STI screenings and condom use. And I recognize some people could be really offended by this, like, oh, I've been married for 50 years. I don't need to do that, so they could have that initial reaction. So I thought about like what PT line, like what education line or blanket statement could you have in this scenario? And you could say something as simple as, great, like they tell you that they have this goal to be intimate, maybe they're having hip problems, strength, whatever it may be that's limiting them. Then you can say, great, we can certainly help you work towards that, work towards that goal. Thank you for sharing that with me. Anytime that is a goal, I try to do my due diligence as a healthcare provider and recommend folks participate in regular STI screenings and use protection. That way, it's like off of you. It's not personal anymore. It's just oh, that cued me. I need to tell you this. Regardless of age, it's like being ID'd when you're 60. There's some stores that still make you show your ID. They have to type in the birth date, whatever it may be. This is just one of those. It cues you up. You say, hey, don't forget to do this. This is part of your normal healthcare routine. Lastly, if you listen well to your patient, if you hear them and you know what the patient tells you, advocacy can sometimes be the most life-changing piece of your care with that person, with their time, with their encounter within your care. Don't sell the seemingly simple stuff short. So something as easy as saving them $5 because you told them get the 3-pack instead of the 2-pack for $5 less of tennis balls to go on their walker sometimes leaves the biggest impression. And now you have that client that is going to sing your praises and one that makes you feel good, but they tell your family about you. So, as a new clinic owner, that definitely, that word of mouth goes a long way. But more importantly, it might be something like fixing a railing and allows them to come in and out of there. Like you have a handyman resource, or you have something available from something that they said that is the limiting factor to why they're housebound. Or, like I said, it's all about what they tell you in that visit. And then maybe you can't fix it right at that time, but you are starting to think, how can I help make this specific thing better? Even if it's not a strength goal or a range of motion goal or even a balance goal, but you're able to provide them with either the knowledge or the skill or confidence or whatever it is to make this thing in their life a little bit easier for them. And that's something that they will not forget, and they will appreciate it more than you know. So thank you. I will step off my soapbox for the evening, and I will tell you all happy aging and see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the MMOA podcast. If you found this helpful, please share with someone that could benefit. And if you're looking for more practical content to help you better serve older adults, head over to www.mmoa.online, where you can learn more about our free resources, our community, continuing education courses, and our certification. Once again, that's www.mmoa.online. Thanks for listening.